Good afternoon. I always say good afternoon. I'm still wishing it was 3 o'clock on a Saturday. Good evening. It's Tuesday night, and that can only mean one thing. It's Chris and Craig, and we're here with the Tuesday night show. And I think you have got one happy fox. I'm sure you've got two happy foxes here. We've got 2 games played, 2 games won, 6 points and top of the league. You couldn't ask for anything more than that. Even as a Fox fan, you couldn't add anything more than that. But we're going to have a really busy show tonight because we've got a busy week coming up. We've got Arsenal tomorrow and obviously Man City in the Sky game at 4:30 on Sunday. So we might find out a little bit more about the team. We've played 2 easy-ish games. I mean, a lot of people have called West Brom the whipping boys of the division. That might be a bit harsh, but we'll see. Burnley, good win. I didn't think we'd win 4-2, to be honest with you. I had got it a lot tighter than that. But we have got to say Arsenal in the Cup tomorrow night and Man City away on Sunday, which are going to be 2 very different games totally. So let me get my esteemed colleague in to talk about those things. Tuesday night, it must be Craig. Good evening, Craig.
Good evening, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm all right. And did you notice I called you esteemed there? I'm trying to keep on your good side.
Yeah, I know. You've obviously been dipping into that dictionary.
Yeah, what does it mean? I thought it was an insult. Yeah. But you've got to be happy with the start we've had.
I am. As a Leicester fan, it's always tempered slightly with some realisation of who we've played and what's to come. But you can't ask for any more than 7 goals in 2 games and beating teams that historically, although we have beaten in the past, coming out of the season that we had, the end of the season, there was a little bit of trepidation, I think, of how we performed. But I think we've answered most of the critics that we've got over that little blip that happened at the end of the last season, and we're looking a good unit at the moment, even a patched up one.
I think, well, you made 2 very good points there. First one I'd like to go on look at is the fact that yes, there maybe are what I would call bottom half teams, but those are the teams that sort of you could never trust Leicester to beat. I remember for years you'd go out, you'd play the bottom, one of the sort of teams in the relegation zone and lose, and then you'd be playing a top 7, 8 team the next week and win. That's Leicester for you, isn't it?
It is indeed. I mean, I think last year we did okay, I think, against most of the so-called lesser teams. Where we came unstuck was the so-called top 6. So I think we all know it's going to be a challenge on Sunday, and we'll probably have a better idea of where we are after that game.
Yeah, indeed. Good evening, Matthew, and good evening, Andy. Happy to have you live.
Evening,
and
guys.
I think my daughter is watching as well. So Heather, if you're watching, hello. So you've got to keep the family happy, haven't you? But the other point,
you brought a fan.
My daughter. Hopefully, she's a fan. I think if the other point that you brought up then, the other point that you made was, it is a patched up team, but, I think indeed he hasn't let us down in the defence, and Mendy hasn't let us down in midfield.
No, not at all. I think Wilf's positional play is he's not a centre half, but when he's asked to dip in there, then he's done a great job. He does get pulled around slightly because at the end of it, he's a midfield player and he wants to go and win the ball, and probably in places that he doesn't need to go and win it. But Mendy's done a great job. I don't think anybody can argue with the fact that he's provided that bit of solidity in front of the back two, and he's going to be unfortunate when inevitably he will lose his place when indeed he steps back up. But I think it shows that Brendan was right in not spending additional money when we had a perfectly good guy that we could bring in, and getting him on an extended contract for a year is proving to be a good decision.
And I think a point that I think we've discussed before is that to actually have players in the squad that are happy to bench at Leicester is it is good. I mean, a lot of players will go to Man City, or Chelsea, or whatever, knowing they might end up at the bench for half the season, but happy to take the money. But not many people, if they're coming to Leicester, would want to be on the bench. So I think if we've got players like Amati, like Mendy, that we can fall back on, that are not necessarily spectacular, but do the job they're asked for, that's going to be a good thing.
Definitely, and and I think there's an interesting point that Andy's just made there, and it's one that I would agree with. Tielemans, I wouldn't say he lives in his shadow of Maddison, but he isn't the main man. He's not the playmaker when Maddison is in there, and I think that does Tielemans a disservice. In many ways, history shows there's been a lot of players who step out of the shadows when the so-called big name moves on, and I think Tielemans is showing that he's a fantastic player who can be that playmaker. And I think, although we haven't really touched on the Burnley game yet, so we're looking ahead, Rodgers has got a decision to make there, because I don't think Tielemans or Pratt deserve to be dropped out of that team just to bring Maddison back. So the only way he can do it for me is by either a slight change of formation to get Maddison in, because those midfield pair definitely have done a great job.
I mean, should Tielemans be in the shadow of James Maddison? I mean, Tielemans is the most expensive player we have ever bought. And, at £40 million, he surely shouldn't be in the shadow of anybody. And also, does it send out the wrong message if as soon as Maddison is fit, he comes back in and Pratt's dropped? I mean, I kind of get Pratt coming off after 60 minutes. Maddison, he's getting him, slowly back after the injury, easing him into the games. But, surely it sends the wrong message out if as soon as player A is fit, player B is dropped.
I totally agree. I think it can only do the team good, but also I think in the longer term it'll do Maddison good to know that he has competition for his place. The worst thing that you want is for people to be comfortable and know that no matter what happens, as soon as they're fit, they're back in the team. And I think that these guys have shown Maddison that he needs to step his game up. I mean, he wasn't great, although he was injured, obviously, but the couple of games where he came back, it's almost like, he was getting, I won't say arrogant, but it was more about him than the team. And I think the one thing that we know with Rodgers, that the team is going to win over the individual. So I think it'll be a kick up the backside to Maddison, and can only benefit him and the team.
Yeah. Okay, just picking this point up from Andy, which takes us back nicely to the Burnley game. And, they say a week is a long time in politics. I think it's even longer in football, because you can go, as I said on the post-match show with Brad, you can go from zero to hero in a week. I mean, to me, and my brain has gone dead. Harvey Barnes. I'm getting old today. I'm needing in. Harvey Barnes, brilliant game against Burnley. Yeah, all right, I mean, he got the goal, and he doesn't always shoot brilliantly, but he runs at the defence. He makes things happy. He scares the defence. He takes players away, giving other players space. You can't expect, a young lad, and he is still young, to perform week in, week out. But, the one bad thing, which we know it seems to be coming out of it, is, and I think this is the guy who possibly will make way for under, and that is Perez. So your thoughts on Barnes and Perez?
I think Barnes had a great game, and he did what we've wanted him to do when we've talked about him before, is just be positive, take the game to the opposition. As you quite rightly said, when he does that, he draws more players to him, which creates space for other players. I mean, Pratt got all that room on the edge of the box for his goal because, one, Harvey Barnes ran at players and pulled the guy who was with him across, and Castagna made that fantastic run to take the winger away, McNeil away, which gave him all that space. And it shows you that you've got to work just as hard off the ball as you have when you're on the ball, but be positive with it and draw players to you and create space. The best teams do that. The best players do that, and it won't always work for you. But I think Rodgers is giving him the freedom to do it. He did, whether he needed to. He didn't look to me like he was doing a lot of tracking back, and I think that's whether he'd been given that message to try and stay further forward. I don't know, but it seemed to be that whenever he was getting the ball, he was going forward. Perez, we've talked about, I think, every week, and I really do like him. I think what he's been showing up now is that he's got to step up his game, and I think he will be the one who's under pressure from under for his spot. But again, it'll be interesting to see how he pitches the Man City team. The one thing I would temper the Burnley performance with, and it quite surprised me when I looked at the stats, was that they had more goal attempts than we did. Now, that is something that needs to be changed. If you're giving Burnley more attempts than we're having, admittedly, it was an open game. I think it was 15-16, something like that. Yeah. But if you're giving Burnley that many, how many attempts are we going to give Man City? Because I don't think they'll be as profligate as Burnley's strike force was.
But do you think, and I'm just looking at the stats here, at half time, we'd had 7, Burnley had 3. In the second half, it was 14-16 to Burnley. But they did have that spell after we went 3-1 up when they were literally throwing everything bar the kitchen sink at us. they were doing that. And like you say, the worry is that Man City, won't be as wayward with the shots and what have you. Just to finish on the Burnley game, and before we move on and look forward, we've got to give Pratt a mention for that shot and that goal.
I think it's a goal that he deserved from the performances in the 2 games. To be honest, I think I think some people got on him early on, but I think if you watch football, you know that there's a player there. There's definitely a player there, and the more minutes he's on the pitch, the better he will become. And if you do, Rodgers' problem is going to be having to fit in talented players into that midfield and rotate them. It's a job that Guardiola's had to do. And when you look at some of the players, Bernardo Silva hardly got a kick in the second half of last season, and what a fantastic player that most teams would take in an instant. So we're almost having that exuberance of riches going forward. We've just got to tighten that little bit at the back. But I think Pratt's goal was fantastic, and a lot of those, even the own goal was a great move. The ball from Tielemans was just fabulous. And it shows you what a talent he is.
We talk about Pratt. He's a regular in the Belgian national side, who are the number 1 side in the world at the moment. They're higher than the South Americans. Well, most people are higher than England, but you're not a bad player if you're in that squad that's in the best team in the world, are you?
No, not at all. And we should be grateful that we've got 3 of their first team. I don't know if there's any other team. I'm sure someone will tell me if I'm wrong, but whether there's any other team in the Premier League or in Europe who's got more of the starting Belgium 11 in their team than us, I'm not sure.
And we've got Arsenal tomorrow. I think we would both admit that there's going to be changes for then. I think we'll see. I think we'll see Evans back certainly, because I don't. He's not banned as far as I know. Somebody just said then, and this is Rob McFarlane, I do believe. Good evening, Rob. Is Evans available for Man City? I could be wrong. I think he's available for Arsenal because it's a League Cup game, but not available for Man City. Do you know at all, Craig?
Obviously, my natural instinct would be to bow down to your greater knowledge, Chris.
Fool! You're a mad fool.
The truth is, I'm not sure because I've read conflicting reports. So someone saying that he wasn't available for Arsenal, but he would be for Man City. So I'm hoping that our esteemed viewers can obviously do some little research while we're on air and probably tell us the definitive answer.
Yes.
But ideally, you'd want him playing in both, but he can't be clearly because he needs to get match fit as well. So if he's not available for Arsenal, then he's coming into the Man City game, fresh. Okay, admittedly, but maybe a little bit rusty.
And Ash says Madders or Tielemans in the side, both on the same time, will unbalance the team.
Well, I'm wondering with regards to Man City whether Brendan will play Pratt slightly deeper and have Tielemans and Maddison in front of them, because if he sets up more of a central base, it gives the two fullbacks the opportunity to get forward more. And as we can see, those two fullbacks love to bomb forward. We would probably lose something if they were being pinned back. So it wouldn't surprise me if he set up with maybe Pratt sitting a little bit deeper and allowing Maddison and Tielemans to be the ball players in front, and then use the two fullbacks as the wider outlets.
Yeah, and that's Eddie Bland there. Pretty sure the 3-match ban includes tomorrow's cup game. If it doesn't, and he is available you would expect him to start against Arsenal, would you not?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think he has to. I mean, I've written down a list of sort of 8 players, that came off the top of my head who were probably going to play against Arsenal, and he wasn't one of them. That defensive pairing is the bit where you wonder what we're going to do there. If Evans is available, fantastic, because I think he'll play Morgan alongside him. If Evans isn't available, whether he'll go with Amati, whether he'll go with one of the younger players, I'm not sure.
I was going to say, we've got. I mean, to my mind, Amati is a good defender, and we've said time and time again. He won African Nations Player of the Tournament in that position. He's got to be given a chance soon. Has he not? I mean, if we've got Amati, if he is available, then do we need an extra centre back? Because he can play anywhere across the back.
He can. I would still like us to be getting another centre back. Whether it's, I really like it if we manage to get this Fofana deal over the line, because the more I see of him, the more I hear about him. If we don't get him, we need to get him while he's almost under the radar a little bit, I think, because if he has another great season at his age, there's going to be bigger clubs coming for him than we are, with all respect to ourselves.
I was watching Sky Sports transfer show online earlier, and they said that St Etienne are happy to sell Fofana, not to Leicester, though.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Sky Sports transfer desk is basically just a regurgitation of anything they read anywhere else. To be honest, I've not heard one thing come out of there that I've not heard from somewhere else before it. I cannot believe that a club would allow their manager to dictate where a player goes, to be honest. If we manage to meet their valuation, they need to move on as well. You've got to have done something really, really bad to upset an owner's to not sell to you, and I can't believe that there's anything in there. Sky Sports just, as I say, they'll regurgitate things with absolutely no substance to it. I noticed earlier they were talking about Manchester United again, and they actually came out and said, well, obviously we don't know what goes on behind the scenes because we're looking at it from the outside, but then go on to talk for 10 minutes as if they know everything that's going on at the club.
Yeah.
So
yes.
I would take anything Sky Sports say with a little pinch of salt.
Okay. Going back to then Arsenal tomorrow night, under to start, or was it too soon? Because Castagna started.
I read that his international clearance wouldn't come through in time for Arsenal. So I'm not sure. I think if it does, it definitely gets some pitch time. Whether he would start him, I'm not sure. Which means I think he'll probably be on the bench against Man City again. I don't think he'll start. I think Rodgers will go with his tried and trusted people. I think it'd be interesting to see whether Gray gets the start tomorrow. I just literally heard just before we came on air that Gray was being linked with Watford because it looks like Liverpool coming in for Ismail Sarr. So Gray would be a sensible replacement. Now, whether that would be a loan move or a sale, I'm not sure. Depends if we need the funds. But I would imagine that if he's not going out anywhere, Gray would play. If he doesn't play, that tells me that he is going.
Yeah. Okay, you said you made a list of possible changes for tomorrow night. Do you want to run through them?
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm going to leave the defence. I think Fuchs will play. I'm not sure what he's going to do at right back. It wouldn't surprise me if he plays Justin at right back, to be honest, just to give him more pitch time. I think Dewsbury Hall will play tomorrow. I think he'll play Maddison. I think Albrighton will play. Iheanacho will play, and I do think Gray will play. So I think he's got the basis of a good midfield there. It's just how he manages that back line. But I would imagine Arsenal are going to play their youngsters, which could be good for us, but they will be pretty nippy. They've got some fast young players, Arsenal, so it'll be an interesting game for us.
Matthews is there, and I can't argue with that. Every time Gray starts, he's woeful. It seems when he comes on as a sub, again, a little bit like Harvey Barnes, he runs at the defence, he scares the defence, and coming on in that last 10, 15 minutes, maybe when the defenders are a little bit knackered, but you start him, and he's bloody useless, to put it, unpolitely.
Yeah, you need to stop holding back, Chris. He's the classic enigma, isn't he? Gray, because we've seen him have some fantastic 15-20 minute cameos where he has come on and changed the game and he looks up for it. It's almost like he feels like he has a point to prove when he comes on as a sub, but not when he starts a game. But we've always had players like that. You go back to Kevin Russell, who was a fantastic sub for us, old Rooster. From the start was never great. I don't know. Maybe it's just in the DNA of some players that they like to come on to a game that's already up and running rather than they can't get the motivation to go from the off. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Mark says there, good evening, Mark. Nice to see you. Gray in the shop window. Well, yeah, it could be.
He's been in the shop window for longer than a lot of dead wasps, to be honest. I don't know how much more he needs to be in the shop window, but I think it will show, his desire to either A, get into the team or B, get a move. If he starts, then you've got to see something from him, because if he doesn't, you've got to wonder what the hell he's doing, Yeah.
And just a comment here from Matthew, and I presume we're still talking about Gray. He's had more chances than I've had hot dinners. Get rid. I have a friend who's a Birmingham fan, and when we first sold Gray, I was really excited to get him because he was, one of the young hot prospects, and he was really, really disappointed to see him go. But he just hasn't stepped up. And I think I said with Brad, sometimes a new manager comes in and you see the difference in players. And the difference, a new manager can come in, have a bit of faith with a player, maybe put his arms around him, give him some encouragement, different training methods. But Gray doesn't seem to have improved under any manager that we've had since he signed.
No, and I get the feeling that Rodgers is losing patience with him, to be honest. It was interesting, something that Rodgers said in an interview that I read today was talking about his scouting team. And when he's got his scouting team out there and he asks them to not just look at stats, but also look at players who seem to have lost their way, who have had a move or two moves where it just hasn't worked out for them, that they had a real talent when they were younger, but it's just gone a little bit wrong for them somewhere. And he's told his staff to keep an eye on players like that as well. So I think he's a manager who's prepared to give players a chance, but Gray's been there a long time now. He's seen enough of him, I think, that the fact that he's not sort of getting anywhere near getting onto the pitch or even getting into the squad in that first game tells me that I think Rodgers is probably at a point where it's best for both the club and himself to get a fresh start. And I think Rodgers respects players, and I think he would want him to do well. And if there was an opportunity that suited the club and the player, I don't think he would stand in his way.
In fact, Gray wasn't in the squad for Burnley either, so he's not even been on the bench, and he was a regular sub, wasn't he? But I think, like you say, we Richie there actually we just to even things up and show a bit of fairness on both sides. A Gray fan there, keep Gray at Leicester, but there does come a point even with squad players when you've got to you draw the line with them. Now, I don't know that this is because he's making an announcement or this is he's got in early, but gentleman here saying Boris is on. Now, I'm not sure what position we'd play him in, and I didn't even know we'd signed him.
Maybe he's got an opinion on Damari Gray.
Yes, yeah. But looking at our record with Arsenal just over recent years, since that, and I remember the opening game of the 17-18 season. It was the first Friday night match, I think, ever on Sky. And I was down the pub with my son and we lost 4-3. But since then, we've actually only, where are we? In the Premier League, we've only lost one since then. We beat them 3-1 that same year. We lost 3-1 to them in October 18. And since then, we've had 2 wins and a draw. But it's a different Arsenal now under Arteta, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. I was actually at that game at the Emirates, and I remember it well for 2 things. One, it was the first time that I'd ever been to the Emirates. And 2, I think it was the last time that the Arsenal fans actually sang and made a noise. I think I remember, when that place is noisy, it was great, and it took to the 92nd minute or something, and Giroud scored the winner, and it was rocking, but it was terrible for us. But as you say, since then, they used to be our bogey side. I think once I remember us getting a draw down at the King Power when I'm racking my brains out, but I think it was Craig Hignett scored a late equaliser, and that was amazing that we actually got a point off Arsenal. I know Craig Hignett, I'm plumbing the depths there, aren't I? But we've got a good record against Arsenal. I don't think we've got that sort of fear factor. I think we still have it with Man City. I think we still have it with Liverpool. We still have it with Manchester United to a certain extent, that we seem to play within ourselves and give them too much respect. But I think that's gone out the window a little bit with Arsenal now. I think this is a totally different game with it being the cup, but it'd be interesting. And I think for once, it's probably nice to be in a position where, we're playing against one of the big boys, and in the bigger scheme of things, we're not really bothered if we go out.
Yes, yeah, that is very true. Just quickly mention, of course, let's not forget Leicester Arsenal. The was it 3 or 4 all in the Filbert Street clash when Bergkamp got his hat trick, and Matt Elliott did quite. In fact, this was Matt Elliott's favourite ever goal that he scored for Leicester, because he gave it a bit of a Brazilian turn, and that was a classic game. I always remember that one. And the other thing as well, and we're going to have him on. Yeah, we're going to have him on in a couple of weeks on the Friday night opposition show. Is possibly my future brother-in-law is a big Arsenal fan. So I'm not. I've been disappointed with I've got 2 daughters, twin girls, and one boyfriend isn't into football at all. So I'm all right with him. But the other one's going out with an Arsenal fan. So, but
which of your daughters is watching tonight, Chris?
It was Heather. She's not. She's the non-football. She's the non-football one. Okay. But no, I'll have. Yeah, we'll have Ali on in a couple of weeks, and we'll give him some grief then. But it is a cup game. It will be interesting to see what side they put out. Let's quickly think about moving on to Man City. Let's have a prediction off you for the Arsenal game.
For the Arsenal, Chris, I'm tempted to stick with 3-1, as I probably should do, until it comes in. I'm going to take some solace in the fact that it was a 2-goal victory, 3-1, 4-2. But against Arsenal, I don't know. It could go either way. I think either team will win it. The odd goal in 5.
Wow, that's going to be an exciting game. I must admit, I'm going the other way. I think it could be a low-scoring draw, and then it goes to penalties. And then, of course, it's anybody's game. I'm a bit like you. To be honest with you, I always want Leicester to win. And when I do the predictions with Steve and the 2 Steves and Ian Marshall, I can never predict us to lose. But I'm not sorry if we go out. I won't be, like you said, I won't be sorry if we go out.
I think I'll probably still be annoyed. That's just natural. Particularly as Andy says there, we're going to miss out on the big payday against Lincoln. So it would be nice. It would be nice to get away. I think it'll be nice to actually progress, because it'll be very good development for some of our younger players to be playing, against the likes of Arsenal, against the likes of Lincoln and Liverpool. But so from that perspective, it's good. These are players who are not going to get many minutes on the pitch. So the incentive is that if we can stay in that competition, there's a bona fide competition against good teams, that those players are going to get much more experience than they will do playing against under 23s.
But if we do progress, you do know that we'll get to the quarterfinals or the semi-finals, get Man City, and go out on penalties anyway. So let's just get out there now and get on with it and concentrate on your winning the Europa League.
Yes.
We shall see which of us is right. You're going for the 3-1. I'm going for the 1-1 and penalties, and I obviously want Leicester to win, of course I do. And we'll see about you say, it depends on how many changes, because we've never been a side, I don't think, that we've got the squad depth so we can make a lot of changes, as we've seen in past years against the likes of Newport and what have you. We haven't got that squad depth to put a sort of second string out. But moving on to next Sunday, and going from a team in Arsenal that we have done well against recently, to a team, Man City, that since we won the league, we've only beaten once, and that was under our friend Mr. Puel on that famous Boxing Day. We have got. I'm looking here from the 13th of May. It's lost, won, lost. Should we just give them the points now?
I guess if we've got to play them, which we have twice, I think it's contractually obliged. It's probably a good time to play them. The fact that they've had one game, We've had two. We're sort of bedded in. I would prefer that we've got a settled back four. But, I think we should be playing with confidence, and probably more confidence than we have. I'm not sure if you watched any of the game against Man City against Wolves the other night, but Wolves basically watched Man City pass the ball around for a good 60, 65 minutes and barely laid a glove on them. But when they did, they looked vulnerable. And I think that's the thing with Man City. I think if you do take the game to them, you do risk, being caught, because they have some fantastic players, obviously. But I think you can also put a little fear into them. And the fact that, Laporte's out, it looks like Stones played the other night. Stones has has done well for us in past in Man City games. So I think it's a good time to play them, to be honest. And I just hope that Brendan gets his team right and he plays on the front foot rather than giving them too much respect.
Aguero's out as well. He's out long term, I believe. So, but when you look at who they can bring off the bench, it's like it's scary, So thank God they didn't get Messi. And I don't know if there is ever a good time to play, but you've got to play all the teams, like you say. You're contractually obliged to play everybody else twice, and we do know that teams can be beaten. I think. I'm going to probably say take the Arsenal game with a pinch of salt, because there will be a lot of changes, I think, on both sides. And if we win, yes, it will give the club a boost. But I think the Man City game will see. We've played, and no disrespect to West Brom and Burnley, but I said right at the top, we've played two teams that we would probably expect to win. Man City is the first true test.
Yeah. And I think it's in many ways it's quite a dangerous game for us as well, because we've built up this confidence. It would be terrible if we had a poor performance against Man City and it sort of brought the guys back down to earth a little, in knowing that there's still that big gap between us and the bigger teams. I think it's an opportunity for us to. It is a benchmark, really, and I think even if we lost, obviously it's a huge if. But if we did lose, I think if we've got a performance there, we've caused them problems, I think you can take a positive out of a defeat. If you sit back and allow them to pick you off and you get beaten 2-3 without laying a glove on them, I can't see that will do us any good at all.
So Andy's put there no Mahrez to torment us. I didn't know. Is he out injured? Is he? I don't know. I'm
not sure, to be honest. He didn't come on against Wolves. No. I wasn't sure whether he was on the bench, though. Luckily, I think Bernardo Silva's still injured. So, as I say, Jesus is not Aguero. He's a very good player, but I don't think he's a natural finisher. And behind that, obviously, De Bruyne. But, we've got Pratt, we've got Tielemans, we've got Castagna. If anybody knows how De Bruyne ticks, those three Belgians should know.
Shame we can't buy De Bruyne and Belgians.
It wouldn't surprise me if I've not seen Rodgers do a man for man, but it wouldn't surprise me if Pratt isn't too far away from De Bruyne for most of that game.
Apparently, and if it's true, wish him well. Apparently, he's got COVID-19. So,
yes, yeah.
I remember reading something about that. I wish him well. I know he's not our player anymore, but still wish him well. Going hard and rank them up, says Matthew. And I think I maybe wouldn't exactly use those words, but if we lose, I remember the Great Escape year, and we lost, and I was driving up week in, week out from Poole in Dorset, 3.5 hours to Leicester, 3.5 hours back to watch us lose every 2 weeks. And the thing we were doing was it was the way we were losing. We were only losing by the odd goal, 2-1, 1-0, maybe the odd 3-1. Yeah. But we were putting up a performance. And I think, going back to that Liverpool game, And that we lost last year, and a lot of people say that was when things started to sort of derail for us. And it wasn't the fact that we lost 4-0 to Liverpool; it was the manner in which we lost.
Yeah.
And that's my worry when we play one of these teams. Is if we lose 2-1 or 1-0, and we've played out of our skins, I'll always back the boys. But if we have a lackluster performance, it obviously that can affect you.
I think most fans would love their team to just go and have a go. It's pretty much a free swing, isn't it? The success of our season isn't going to be with the greatest of respect in terms of where we think we're going to finish. Isn't necessarily going to be the results against Arsenal and Liverpool and Man City. It's against the rest of the teams.
Yeah.
So this is very much one of those free swings where you can go and puff your chest out a little bit and show that, we've got some good players as well. And if you Gundogan's not playing either. We've got players that I wouldn't necessarily swap for some of Man City's players the way we're going. I don't think we'd swap Castagna for either of Man City's fullbacks at the moment. Tielemans has been playing fantastically well. Pratt's been playing fantastically well. We've still got Maddison to come in. Would you swap Jesus for Vardy? I'm not sure that you would. Maybe in terms of years, but I don't know. I think we're at a point where we should play with confidence. That may bite us on the bum, but I think that we've shown enough in these 2 games that we can play some bloody good football. And there's no reason that we shouldn't go out and try and impose ourselves on them.
I think it wasn't. I actually put a post on Facebook when I was watching the Burnley game, and at one point, I think when we were 3-1 up, we had one of those sessions where we passed it about 25, 20 times. And I was actually sat there finding myself going, way, every time they passed it to each other. And I hadn't had a drink. But it's great when you play like that, as long as there's an end product.
Yeah. I was talking to someone today, and they were talking about the passing stats. And for me, passing stats should be thrown out the window. What the stats should be passes forward for me, completed passes forward, because you look at the end of the season, the top passers are the centre halves because they just pass it around to each other. Obviously, the top stander on the ball doing nothing is Johnny Evans. So if he's back in, we can look forward to him doing that. But we have the players to go forward, and I think with Castagna, the way that he's playing at the moment, and James, they both look like they want to get forward at every moment. Now it's a gamble, but if we can push their fullbacks backwards, then we've got a very good chance of being in that game and exposing it and moving forward. I talk about this every week, probably boring the viewers to death about the speed of transition. But against Man City, it's more crucial than anyone else, because when you do get the ball back, one, you need to keep it, but you need to move it quickly to expose the fact that they tend to have a lot of players forward. And we've got players now who like that quick transition. Castagna is always looking for a quick 1-2 and trying to get round behind his fullback. Tielemans can pick him out. Pratt can pick him out. Harvey Barnes can run with the ball. We should be confident. We should be able to go into the game full of confidence.
Well, looking at the predictions, we don't do the predictions for the cup games, but Ian Marshall has gone actually for a 3-1 win to Man City. He's not hopeful of us getting anything at all there. Steve Lynix has gone for a 1-1, and I'm in good company because Steve Walsh and myself have both gone for a 2-2. Now, are you going to cheer us up and predict a win?
So, sorry, you cut out there. Did you say that you and Steve went for a 2-2?
Me and Steve Walsh went for a 2-2, yeah.
I'm a little bit worried, Chris, because I came into this thinking about my prediction, and the fact that my prediction matches yours is a little bit worrying for me, I must admit.
A third 2-2, a third 2-2. I mean, at this
Yeah.
point, it's one of those. Would you take a point?
Yes, I would take a point. I would wrap it and put a bow on it.
Yeah. And I think after that, we've got a couple of easier games because I think we've got West Ham coming up who have had a horrendous, well, not the best of starts to the season. So, and just to finalise now on a bit of general football news, it doesn't look like we're going to be getting back to the stadiums very quickly.
No, it doesn't. It was all looking good for October, albeit with limited numbers in anyway. I'm sort of flabbergasted. I can understand it to a point, but there are other things that are going on in more enclosed environments with greater numbers of people than if you're getting 3,000-4,000 people in a 35,000 stadium. I think it smacks of the government not trusting the football authorities, but not trusting football fans to be sensible. Football fans want their football back. I can't see any football fan doing anything stupid to put that back. I think every fan would be on their best behaviour and taking as many precautions as possible because they want to get back inside the grounds. So it's quite sort of despondent that the fact that it's been put back a little bit, and particularly as you look in Germany and France. France is supposed to be having a real bad time with COVID at the moment, but they've got thousands of fans in there. Germany have got thousands of fans. America, who are having the worst time of it, they've got fans in their stadiums. I think, unfortunately, not to get political, but our government look at other countries and take the bits that they like, but they don't have the same progressive view about getting people back out and enjoying life again.
I think it would be very well. It wouldn't be difficult. I mean, if when we used to go to the games, I mean, you got some poor Leicester City employee walking around the ground sticking 30,000 clappers in the seats. They can easily go around and stick a red cross, green tick, red cross, green tick, and keep, like you say, people. But I don't know. Like you say, don't want to get political, but I think it's a big shame. It just means more matches on telly, which is great. It's great if you've got Sky Sports, but I just hope it doesn't get to the point where it's all stopped again. And I hope we just at least, rather than have no football, at least being able to watch it is something.
And we have to, look down the pyramid as well, because as bad as it is for the teams in the Premier League and who are, not every team is awash with money, but we've got a lot more money than teams down in League Ones and Twos, and they struggle at the best of times. For them, their gate receipts are a much bigger proportion of their turnover than they are for Premier League teams, and that's where the real danger lies, that we could see quite a few clubs going to the wall, and how they manage that, I don't know, but hopefully, if there is to be anybody getting back into football grounds, then those lower league teams need that money. So hopefully, they can push for it and get those fans back in there.
I was listening to the Leyton Orient chairman earlier, and I think they're supposed to be playing Spurs tonight. Now I don't know if it's gone on because a couple of Leyton Orient players I think got tested positive. But was he called off in the end? Right. I hope they're going to, because I think the Lincoln chairman was a bit worried because somebody had raised the point that the game might just be it might be given to Tottenham as a bye. That I don't think is happening. I think they will play it. But I think Tottenham actually paid for Leyton Orient to have the tests done. Which was a nice gesture. But no, the Orient chairman, he was worried about some of the clubs down there and how they will survive, like you say.
Yeah, I mean, it is, Orient, I think the rules are that because it was deemed that Orient are the ones who couldn't fulfil the fixture, then the rules state that the tie should be awarded to Spurs. I mean, I would hope that Spurs Spurs would step up and find a way of playing that game. They wouldn't be playing all their first team anyway, so it's not like they've got to try and fit in another fixture for a lot of their players. Although it's probably the one where Dele Alli would put himself in the shop window. But I hope they do find a way of playing that fixture, and hopefully televised, because that will bring some money into Leyton Orient as well.
Last question. You brought him up there, and I had forgotten about him. Would you take a punt on Dele Alli if he's available?
I thought about this before, and he does seem to be very pally with Maddison. I would go by the same rules that I do when other people tout other players that come in. I would ask myself, who would I drop to play him? And at the moment, I don't think I would drop any of our players. So I'd have to take, unless he's happy sitting on the bench and being a bit of a cheerleader, then he may be worth a punt. But I can't see that he's going to displace any of our players at the moment.
No. Right. Well, that's it. So, like you said, looking good, top of the league, pain in the neck looking down at everybody else down there. Cup game tomorrow, which if we do with any small matter, somebody said earlier, of Lincoln in the next game, and just Man City on Sunday. So a full week. Craig, thank you very much for joining me as usual on a Tuesday night.
Very welcome, and thanks to everybody who's joining in as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And like I say, if I don't see you on one of the shows before then, I will see you a week today, when let's hope we're smiling as much as we are now. Thanks so much,
when you're
Craig.
smiling.
Exactly. I was waiting for you to Brad burst into song for me. You obviously didn't.
Maybe if we beat Man City.
Hey, right. Andy, you've just popped up there.
Thanks, Andy.
Craig, the big Man City is going to. Craig's going to sing us a song. Is it worth losing the 3 points? Who knows? Craig, thanks very much.
Thanks, Chris.
So, as Craig said, I just want to reiterate there, thanks to everybody who's joined us and commented tonight on the Tuesday night show. I'll be back with Rafe, a big Man City fan, runs Man City TV. He'll be joining me on Friday for the opposition show. And then 7 o'clock-ish on Sunday, post Man City game, we'll be having a chat with Brad and hopefully looking back at the win. Fingers crossed. We've done it before. It's our time to win. Like I said, we've not won much in the last couple of seasons against Man City. It's our turn, and we are playing well at the moment. So, everybody, here's to a win tomorrow. Here's to a win on Sunday. Keep the faith and keep yourself safe. Thanks for joining us. Good night now.